just so you know. This month of November is not a month for Guy Fawkes and fireworks parties. It's not a month in the run-up to Christmas when you should be starting to write your Christmas cards. It's not a month for remembering our war dead. It is, in fact, Islamophobia Awareness Month. And I'm Granniopteryx. It's Islamophobia Awareness Month. And next week, Muslims are going to be making us aware of Islamophobia when they descend upon London in what they describe as a million-man march. They haven't really mentioned women as far as I remember, but yeah, what do women count in Islam? And they're laying on buses from as far afield as Batley, where a teacher is still in hiding for having taught about Muhammad in a religious studies class. Now, before we actually get started, I want you to look at this picture of Keir Starmer. Well, it's from his tweet in which he delivers a speech about Islamophobia. And you will see he's wearing a black suit. Earlier that day, here, I'll put the photo up. I do have it, so yeah, it'll be that side. Yes, who knows. Anyway, he was wearing that same dark suit to another function, and he was wearing a poppy, as is the custom come November as part of the commemoration services surrounding our remembrance of our war dead in the last century. Now, he's taken the poppy off for this one. He says it's a mistake. I don't think anyone actually believes him, but he says it's a mistake. We, if you will notice, we have also removed the flags from the cenotaph. Now, I don't know whether they'll go back up on Remembrance Sunday, but it's quite obvious that any sort of flag is off the cenotaph now because people are worried about vandalism. Somehow, I think we're getting the feeling that we are under siege in our own country. Keir Starmer talks about people being afraid in their own country when he's talking about Muslims. I'll play his speech. It's not very long. But I think more non-Muslims are now becoming distinctly edgy in their own country. So let's just have a look at Keir Starmer's broadcast of the most colossal bad timing when we are getting news about... Now, how do I put this? I would call people like that animals, but there is no animal on earth apart from those people, well, the things, that could dream up that sort of thing. Let's listen to Keir Starmer warning us about Islamophobia, should we?
This Islamophobia Awareness Month.
Right, we've got a whole month to think about our Islamophobia. I want to point out, as many others have done, that a phobia is an irrational fear. When you see what happened in Israel, there is absolutely no irrationality about it. When you hear of teachers being having their lives threatened, who are actually, the one in Batley is still living in fear, that's not irrational. When you hear about gay men being stabbed in a park on a sunny Saturday afternoon or whenever it was, that's not irrational. But Keir Starmer chooses to call it Islamophobia, trying to convince us that we have an irrational fear. Let's carry on.
Comes at a deeply troubling time for Muslim communities across Britain.
It's not a troubling time for Muslim communities across Britain. it's a troubling time for us. Now, there will be many Muslims troubled by the behaviour of their more radical community leaders and so on. But they're not speaking out. They're not standing up. So I'm afraid if they're troubled, they're keeping it to themselves. And that just shows how cowardly they are. Let's carry on.
We've seen a devastating rise in Islamophobia.
Devastating. There's been hardly anything at all that's different from before. Just a bit more awareness of it, of course. No, the devastating rise has been in anti-Semitic incidents. And we all know that too.
Leaving people feeling fearful and unsafe in their own country.
Now, you'd say that more about the Jews in Britain than the Muslims, I think. Because the Jews don't go into mobs the same way as the Muslims. That is a characteristic. It's a characteristic of Muslims here, and it's certainly a characteristic of Muslim societies, countries. And that's why they're pretty well ungovernable. But that's their problem.
I've heard firsthand of women wearing hijab who are too scared to travel by public transport.
And I've heard of Jewish school children who cannot wear school uniforms with the badges of their schools on them because of the danger that they're undergoing. And religious Jews. I mean, I've seen videos of religious Jews being, very bravely hit from behind by some obvious Muslim somewhere in Stamford Hill or wherever they were.
Of Muslim families being abused as they leave the mosque. Hate crimes are deeply damaging, both for every affected victim.
Yeah, hate crimes are deeply damaging, and most of them seem to be caused at the moment by Muslims shouting jihad in the street. They may not have actually attacked anybody, but shouting jihad and making Hamas-supporting chants. That's a hate crime, but they don't get arrested by the police because the police are faced with these enormous crowds. They are as terrified as everyone else.
But for communities, and we all bear a responsibility to do all we can to stamp out hate.
Yeah, let's get violent on hate. Yes, stamp out hate. Has this guy got no sense at all? He's talking about stamping out violence. I mean, is he thinking about what he's saying? Well, obviously, I mean, this was a guy who was put in a terribly embarrassing position when Andrew Marr asked him if women had a cervix. And he said, you shouldn't ask questions like that. And look at his body language. Does it look very uncomfortable to you? Because it looks very uncomfortable to me. It looks very much... I'm going to mess with the photo here. Yeah, that's better. All right, let's carry on.
The surge in Islamophobia is simply appalling.
No, what's appalling is the way the Muslims are behaving.
Muslim women and girls disproportionately targeted. Mosques.
As far as I know, incidents about Islam have gone up a bit, whereas incidents involving anti-Semitism have gone up hugely. And very recently, a man made a Facebook post in which he took a video of a local street. And there were a load of Palestine flags on various shops in the street. And he said, this is too much. This is not acceptable. Guess what? No sooner had he posted it than the police were outside his door. They arrested him. They kept him in overnight. And that will be logged as an Islamophobic attack as well.
Forced to ramp up security.
The local Jewish school that I know about has had a guard at the gate and, a sort of electrically opening gate for, as long as I've known about its existence. I think probably every Jewish school in London. And I know that synagogues have people inspecting bags when people go in. And they've been doing this for years and years and years. Don't give me this stuff. I'm waiting for him to do an anti-Semitism awareness month.
And British Muslims questioned as if they are terrorists.
I should think most of them are not. But they have been on these marches and will be on the march on Armistice Day. And I understand they're going to carry that on till Sunday as well. This is a very deeply sacred part of British culture, and they're overtaking it for themselves because they can.
All in an environment of a Tory government that thinks that their divisive language and policy don't matter.
The Tory government is not doing enough. They're not being like Starmer. But if there's a fault the Tory government have, is that they're not speaking out strongly enough about this sort of thing, and they're not controlling our borders with enough enthusiasm either.
They would rather stoke division than bring communities together.
No. You are stoking division because you are giving empowerment to these people who don't want to live in Britain under British laws. They want to live under Muslim laws, and they will keep on pushing and pushing and pushing until they do. And the Labour Party has sold its soul to these people. So because Starmer has said that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, now he feels he has to soothe the poor Muslims who are feeling appalled that he called Hamas terrorists. And I'm Granniopteryx, interrupting myself to remind you to click the like button. Please do that. Click the like button, share this video, subscribe to my channel. All of this helps. All the links are in the description to other channels I'm on and to donation sites. I thank you for any donations. It's always nice. But the best thing you can do for this video and my channel is click like. Okay, back to Islamophobia Awareness Month. Again, I'm saying there are many who are appalled by Muslim behaviour here. Many Muslims who are appalled by, but they're not speaking out.
I do not want Britain to be a place where British Muslims are not able to be their whole selves.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there is a very strong strain in Islam right now, which, if allowed to continue, will ensure that Muslims will be their whole selves. And we have seen what their whole selves in this particular incarnation is like in Israel. If I'd have sat down in a dark room and tried to think of the most cruel, horrible things to do to any human being, I still wouldn't have been able to come up with the sort of things that they did. If you're interested, you'll have to look up this stuff for yourself. But it involves babies and small children, and particularly women. He's talking about Muslim women being afraid. And many of these people do not feel that Britain is their country. They just feel it is a country that they intend sooner or later to conquer in one way or another, or at least to subdue. That's the way some of them do feel about it. And as I keep saying, the others may not have that intention, but they're quite compliant with the idea of staying quiet and not making waves and not telling their community leaders to get down to being British people.
As leader of the Labour Party, I am indebted to the contributions of Muslim members, activists and politicians.
Absolutely. Many of Labour councils and constituencies are held only because of the deal the Labour Party made with various Muslim organisations, including the appalling hate crime bill which Tony Blair pushed through, and which this guy will make even worse if Labour get into power. Do you know the Conservatives do not deserve to win the next elections? But those guys, I mean, it's a devil's choice, isn't it? If they get into power, we really will be in trouble.
Activists and politicians who make our party what it is today.
Yeah, they make the Labour Party what it is today. A mess of people going in different directions, tweeting anti-Semitic tweets and anti-British tweets. That's what the Labour Party is today. And he says the Muslims have made it that way. Yeah, in many ways they have. But also the Labour Party has, the non-Muslims, because they're going along with this.
I'd like to thank Muslim organisations and mosques who work tirelessly to raise awareness and shine a light on the scale of Islamophobia. My Labour Party is committed to work closely with all communities to ensure they have the security they need to feel safe.
As I was saying, the girls in Rotherham needed some security to feel safe. The girls in Rochdale, the girls in Telford, the girls in Oxford. There was an autistic kid who dropped a Koran. His family were nearly lynched. His mother was obliged to sit in a mosque and bow her head and apologise. Is that good for community relations? It'll get worse. He's just promised it.
We cannot allow community cohesion in our country to be destroyed.
Yeah, there is no community cohesion right now. And that's because the government, and this government as well, the Tory government, weak. They will not stand up. The police will not arrest people shouting jihad in the street. You do not, if you haven't studied Islam, you have no idea what jihad means. And the police are going, oh, you don't know what jihad means. Well, I damn well do. And in that context, it means what we saw illustrated in what Hamas did to Israeli farmers, unarmed Israeli farmers.
If Labour is elected to form Britain's next government,
we are all stuffed. I make a government for everyone, yeah.
One that unites, not divides.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit of socialist sloganeering. All right, well, that's my analysis of Keir Starmer's speech. I hope I can get a little modification to the movie there. If I did, I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.